I've always been drawn to the silence of empty places. Churches, libraries, museums after hours. There's a peace there, a sense of history sleeping. My friend Maya called it my weird hobby. She's an urban explorer, a photographer who chases decay and beauty in abandoned buildings. In the fall of 2019, she convinced me to join her on a trip to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Her target? The former Saint Ignatius orphanage, a hulking red brick Victorian monstrosity that had been closed since the 1960s. It's not just abandoned, it's pristine, she'd said, her eyes alight with the prospect. The diocese just locked the doors and walked away. It's a time capsule, and the photos? They'll be incredible. I was hesitant. Orphanages, especially old ones, are fertile ground for bad feelings. But her enthusiasm was infectious. We drove from our home in Milwaukee, the Wisconsin landscape giving way to the dense, deep forests of Michigan's UP. The town of Saint Ignatius was small and quiet, and the orphanage sat on a hill overlooking Lake Superior, looking less like a sanctuary and more like a fortress against the endless gray of the water and sky. We waited until well after midnight. The air was bitingly cold, smelling of pine and damp stone. We used a set of bolt cutters on a rusted chain, and a heavy side door groaned open on hinges that screamed in protest. The sound echoed through a cavernous, dark space. Our flashlights cut beams through the absolute black. We were in a main hall. Dust motes danced in the light like agitated spirits. Tiny wooden chairs were stacked neatly against a wall. A blackboard still held the faint, ghostly traces of cursive alphabet lessons. It was, as Maya had promised, a perfect snapshot of the past. But it wasn't peaceful. The silence was a held breath. We explored the ground floor, a classroom, a dining hall with long tables, a kitchen with enormous cold iron stoves. The air grew colder with every room. Our footsteps on the cracked linoleum were the only sounds, each one too loud, too revealing. "Let's try the basement," Maya whispered, her camera clicking incessantly. "The boiler room, the records, that's where the real history is." I didn't want to. The very idea made the skin on my arms prickle. But I nodded. We found a narrow door under a grand staircase. It was unlocked. The door swung open to reveal a steep flight of wooden stairs descending into a darkness so thick it felt solid. A smell wafted up, damp earth, old coal, and something else. Something sweet and metallic, like old pennies. The stairs creaked under our weight, a sound that seemed to offend the profound quiet. The basement was a maze of brick archways and low-hanging pipes. Our flashlight beams jumped and shuddered, revealing piles of coal, ancient fuse boxes, and stacks of wooden crates. And then we saw the doors. Along the far wall were a series of small, heavy doors, each with a tiny barred window at eye level. They were too small to be proper rooms. Closets, maybe. Or punishment cells. Maya headed straight for them. "My God," she breathed, raising her camera. "It's exactly like the record said." I hung back, a deep instinctual dread rooting me to the spot. The air down here was wrong. It was too still, too heavy. It pressed on my eardrums. The sweet, coppery smell was stronger. Maya put her hand on the rusted iron handle of one of the doors. "It's locked," she said, giving it a shake. The door rattled violently in its frame. The moment the sound died, we heard it. From the darkness behind us, back toward the stairs, came a sound that froze the blood in our veins. It was the sound of a child humming. A soft, tuneless little melody. It was close. We spun around, our flashlights slicing through the black, crossing over each other. Nothing. The beams found only empty space and brick walls. The humming stopped. "Hello?" Maya called out, her voice trembling. "Is someone there?" The silence that answered was worse than the humming. It was a listening silence. Then, from a different direction, to our left this time, a small, clear voice spoke. "I'm sorry." It was a little boy's voice. It sounded sad and scared, and it was so close it could have been right next to my ear. I jerked away, my heart hammering against my ribs. "We're not supposed to be here," I whispered to Maya, grabbing her arm. "We have to go. Now." But Maya, driven by some combination of bravery and artistic obsession, shook me off. She turned her flashlight toward the voice. "Who are you? We won't hurt you." The response wasn't a voice. It was a sound. A slow, dragging sound, like something heavy being pulled across the concrete floor. Scrape, drag, scrape, drag. It was moving around the perimeter of the large room, just beyond the reach of our lights. We stood back to back, spinning slowly, our beams frantically searching the encroaching darkness. The dragging sound circled us. It was playing with us. "Show yourself," Maya yelled, her fear turning to anger. The dragging sound stopped, right in front of the door we'd come through, blocking our exit. The little boy's voice came again, but this time it was different. The fear was gone, replaced by a flat, cold curiosity. "Do you want to play a game?" Before we could react, the door to the small cell Maya had tried to open earlier suddenly flew open with a deafening bang, slamming against the brick wall. It wasn't locked anymore. The sound broke whatever spell had held us. We ran, not toward the exit, but away from the voice, deeper into the basement maze, our panicked breaths echoing off the low ceilings. We rounded a corner and found ourselves in a dead end, a small circular room with a drain in the center of the floor. There was no way out. We turned, pressing ourselves against the cold brick just as our flashlight beams began to flicker. They dimmed, then surged, then dimmed again. In the strobing, failing light, we saw them. Shapes, small, thin figures emerging from the darkness between the archways. They didn't walk. They shimmered into existence, their forms vague and shifting. But their eyes, in each fleeting glimpse of light, we saw their eyes. Dark, hollow, and infinitely old. The sweet, coppery smell was overwhelming now, making me gag. The little boy's voice spoke again, but it no longer came from one place. It seemed to emanate from the walls themselves, from the very air. We had to stay. Now you have to stay too. Our flashlights died completely. We were plunged into a blackness so absolute it felt like being buried alive. I could hear Maya sobbing next to me, feel her shaking. The dragging sound started again, closer now. And with it, a new sound, a soft, collective whispering. Dozens of small voices, overlapping, speaking words I couldn't quite understand. Something cold and small brushed against my hand. I screamed and lashed out, hitting nothing but air. Then, from the far end of the basement, a real sound. A deep, booming crash. The main basement door slamming open. "Hello!" a voice roared. A deep, adult human voice. "This is the sheriff's department. Anyone down here, you show yourself right now." A powerful beam of light cut through the blackness from the doorway. The whispering stopped. The dragging sound ceased. The oppressive weight in the air lifted, just for a moment. "Go!" I shrieked at Maya. We stumbled, blind and terrified, toward the light. We fell up the stairs, scrambling on our hands and knees, bursting out into the main hall where two very large, very confused sheriff's deputies stood with flashlights and drawn radios. A neighbor had seen our lights and called in a break-in. We were arrested for trespassing. We spent the night in a cell which felt like a 5-star hotel compared to that basement. We were released with a fine in the morning. As we were leaving the station, the older of the two deputies pulled me aside. His name tag read Driscoll. "That place," he said, his voice low and serious. "You two aren't the first kids we've pulled out of there in the middle of the night. You won't be the last. Did you hear anything?" when you came down?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Deputy Driscoll's face was grim. "We heard you screaming. That's all." He looked away toward the hill where the orphanage stood. "But my father was on the force before me. He told me a story. When they finally closed that place down for good in '63, they found things in the basement, records they never made public, and they never ever found all the children who were supposed to be on the roster." He met my eyes, and I saw a flicker of genuine fear in his. "Some places," he said, "aren't just abandoned. They's occupied, and the tenants don't like visitors." I never went exploring with Maya again. She developed the photos from that night. Most were black, blurry, or overexposed. But one, a shot she took of the basement doorway just before we went down, turned out clear. In the developed photo, visible in the blackness of the doorway, are dozens of small, pale faces, their dark eyes fixed on the camera. And standing just behind them, a tall, thin shadow of a man in what looks like a priest's collar. The past isn't always content to stay there. Sometimes it's waiting in the dark, hoping you'll come down and play. Have you ever felt a presence in an old or abandoned building? Have you ever heard a voice that shouldn't be there? Share your experiences in the comments. Let's piece together the history these places don't want us to forget.